At the start of FM24, the whole world of football opens up before you with more than 50 countries to choose from across 5 confederations. The choice can feel overwhelming, but don't worry, because we've got 26 FM adventures for you in the A to Z of Save Ideas. And we start not with a club, but with a different way of playing the game. We all love a pacey striker or a commanding centre-half, but what if you couldn't see their attributes and have to rely on performance data or scout reports or watching them play yourself? In FM, you have the option of making all of the players' attributes invisible. To do this, go to Preferences, search for Skin Colours, and change the A column to 0 for all of the attributes, which will leave your players looking something like this in your FM24 attributeless save. B is for Bari.
We're moving back to Bari.
No, Bari, a second-tier club based in southern Italy. Bari were Serie A regulars during their golden age of the 1930s and 40s and have been in the top flight occasionally since then. Unfortunately, financial disaster left them restarting in Serie D for the 2018-19 season, but their recovery has been impressive with 2 promotions since and almost a third, losing to Cagliari in the 2023 Serie B playoff final. The Cockerels play in the 60,000 capacity Stadio San Nicolà, nicknamed the Spaceship and built for Italia 90, which gives the club plenty of room for growth. Moving on to the letter C and time for what could be an exhilarating South American adventure. Cartagena are in Colombia's second tier, and this northern port city could provide you with a base to conquer Colombia and then South America. They were formed in 1971 and are now owned by a player agency with the aim of promoting young players from the region. Could you gather a team of young Colombian talent, returning the club to the top flight and go one better than the runners-up medal they got in 2005? D is for Daffugee, a challenge named after a prolific poster on the SI forums who came up with the idea. The Daffugee save involves taking over a team that is not in FM24. Instead, you begin unemployed and then holiday through to the beginning of the second season. You then add a new manager, retiring your first one, and take charge of a team newly promoted in the game. For E, we head to Germany's third tier, and the club is Erzgebirge Aue, who will provide you with a stunning setting for your next FM save. Set in the Ore Mountains, a region with a long history of silver mining, the area is recognised by UNESCO for its heritage, but the club has its own heritage. They are 4-time East German champions and a veteran of European football, but have never been in the top flight since German reunification. Can you bring silver back to the mountains in the form of the Bundesliga trophy? F is for facility, something top-flight clubs around the world are usually blessed with. Their players receive training in high-tech environments from the most skilled coaches. But at the other end of the spectrum, clubs are not so lucky. They may have poor facilities, terrible coaches, and the players struggle to improve at all. For your next FM24 challenge, why not take over at the club with the worst facilities in a bottom playable division and try and build a club from the ground up? As you plot your path from part-time strugglers to the next Real Madrid, the challenge is to develop the stadium as well as the facilities whilst battling low attendances and limited prize money. A modern arena, a proud history and passionate fans. Perhaps your next FM24 adventure could be a Polish side, Górnik Zabrze. Only Legia Warsaw have won more Polish league titles, and Górnik have even appeared in a European final. But their last league win was in 1991, making them the ideal club for you to rebuild in a league that is one of the most competitive in Europe. For H, we have a save with a literary flavour. Helsingør is a town with a population of 62,000 residents on Denmark's northern shores, but it's better known as Elsinore, the castle in Hamlet. FC Helsingør, a second-tier club, play at their small but modern 4,500 capacity stadium. Here, Denmark's self-styled club up north reached the top flight in 2017, but were relegated after just one season. However, they have potential. They finished 4th in each of the last 2 campaigns. They just need a manager of your calibre at the helm to return them to the top flight. For I, we head to Greece and Iraklis, Thessaloniki. Formed in 1908, their long history is reflected in their nickname, the Elders. They are currently in Greece's bottom playable division, but are no strangers to the top flight, with 53 seasons at that level. They may never have finished higher than third, whilst rivals PAOK and Aris are both league winners, but they've never finished lower than 13th in the top flight. Yet despite this, they've been relegated 3 times. Once for alleged match fixing, which was later proved to be false, and twice for financial reasons. As you can imagine, the locals see these relegations as unfair, and they've become part of the club's ethos, with their fans taking to wearing 3 stars in response. Can you undo these perceived wrongs and bring them the victory stars that the club craves? How could we go with anything other than Japan's J-League for our next letter? A 19-year absence from Football Manager is finally over, making the J-League one of the most exciting additions to the game in recent years. With 3 tiers of clubs to choose from and 60 different playable sides on offer, this could be the best save you've had in recent memory. For K, we have something a little different, as our saves so far have tended to be about taking over a single club, but in real life this is of course unusual, and most managers move between sides, which in FM is referred to as a journeyman save. But if you feel like adding a limitation to your journeyman adventure, how about making it a royal progress by sticking to clubs with a royal connection in their name? There are of course Reals and Queens and Górnik are plenty out there, and if you end up at Kaiser Chiefs, you're doubling up. And don't forget to look out for the less obvious examples like Crew Alexander, who are named after a princess. Now, you may be watching this video having already picked out your next club, but let's make it an even more interesting save. How about an adventure based around local heroes? The famous Celtic European Cup winning side known as the Lions of Lisbon were all born within 30 miles of Celtic Park. But can you replicate this amazing feat? The ultimate test, try to manage with only players from your chosen regional city. Can you make the local area proud as you lift major trophies with your locally grown team? For M, we visit Norway and Moss, a club currently in the 2nd tier, having been promoted from the 3rd as champions at the end of the 2022 season. They have a history as a top flight side in the 30s and 50s and 70s and 80s and even the early noughties. They won the Norwegian title in 1987 and were cup winners 4 years earlier, and the 1980s were filled with great European nights at their 10,000 capacity stadium. But such success is a distant memory for the club nicknamed the Lads, making it the ideal time to confirm you as their next FM24 manager. N is for Nashville, a club that debuted in MLS in 2020. This is a young organisation with a history waiting to be written, but Major League Soccer is one of the most challenging leagues in Football Manager, with an ever-growing number of clubs and where some well-backed sides are attracting global superstars. Can you navigate the complex rules in this nation and get a tune out of Nashville? Back to Europe now, and for the letter O, we head to France and Orléans. The local side were founded in 1976 and are known as the Wasps. They play in the National, the 3rd tier of French football, and achieved national attention when they reached the cup final in 1980 as a Ligue 2 side. Alas, they were beaten by Monaco. This World Heritage site in the Loire Valley would provide a stunning backdrop for an FM24 adventure starting in French football's basement. From France, we head to Scotland, where there is an opportunity to take charge of a club that have never appeared in the top 2 divisions. Peterhead's history stretches back to 1891, but until the year 2000, they were a non-league side. Scotland's 3rd tier is as high as the club from the northeast have played, but following relegation last season, your FM24 adventure with the club would begin in the bottom playable division. Q provides another South American adventure in the form of Argentina's Quilmes, one of the oldest clubs in the nation. They have 2 national titles to their name in 1912 and 1978 and currently sit in the 2nd tier Primera Nacional, the bottom playable division in FM24. They were originally set up for the large British community in Buenos Aires province, with the English national side providing inspiration for their white and dark blue kits. If you choose use this historic club? Can you bring them the success to go along with their long history? The clubs in a bottom playable division keep coming, as for R we have Rushall Olympic, a side newly promoted to England's Tier 6. Founded in 1893, the Picts play in the 2,500 capacity Dales Lane Stadium near Walsall. Newly promoted to the Conference North, their current rivals are Hednesford, Stourbridge and Chasetown. But can you develop some new West Midlands rivalries as you take them up the leagues in the longest adventure Football Manager has to offer? S is for Sintrense, who play in the Campeonato de Portugal, the fourth tier of the Portuguese pyramid. They were formed in 1911 by a group of schoolboys looking for a kickabout. They haven't provided much work for the country's engraving industry in the years since, with their most successful period being a 14-year adventure in the country's second tier. With a stadium capacity of just 2,800 and two local rivals in the league above, you will have your work cut out to get this unfancied Portuguese team to the top. For T, we go to the Netherlands and Telstar, a second-tier Dutch outfit. Founded in 1963 and named after the recently launched satellite, they have gone all in on that identity. Their badge features that piece of space hardware, and they still play the 1962 instrumental of the same name by the Tornadoes as their entrance music. They were promoted to Eredivisie in their first season, but have never graced the top flight since relegation in 1978. Can you overcome the disadvantage of playing in the league's smallest ground and take them to another era of top flight football? We all love an underdog story, right? Simon, my researcher, certainly does. He supports Yeovil Town. Well, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. Load up your selected country, check out the bottom playable league, and use the pre-season media prediction to work out who is the worst team available. Welcome to your new club. It's time to turn them into top dogs. Visé are a third-tier Belgium side with solid mid-table finishes over the last 4 seasons. Nothing remarkable about this club so far, but if I tell you that they were playing regional amateur football in Liège just 10 years ago, would that pique your interest? No fewer than 6 successive promotions have brought them from amateur obscurity to the verge of Belgium's big leagues. Can you take over this tiny provincial club and complete their rise to the top of the domestic game? We're now at W, and do you feel like taking on a European pioneer that's never actually won anything in Europe? In 1954, Wolverhampton Wanderers hosted a series of floodlit friendlies. The games were broadcast on television against European giants like Celtic, Spartak Moscow and Honved. Wolves won the games, leading to headlines in English newspapers referring to the club as champions of the world. These friendlies led the French newspaper L'Equipe to organise a championship between 12 leading European sides, the first staging of what was to become the European Cup. Wolves, unfortunately, were not present as the English FA considered the competition beneath them. We will never know whether they would have pipped Real Madrid to the title. But Wolves did reach another inaugural European final, making it to the final 2 of the 1972 UEFA Cup before losing 3-2 to Spurs. Can you take Wolves back into European competition and perhaps earn the Champion of the World tag for real this time? Football doesn't throw up many clubs beginning with X, but if you're looking for an Asian odyssey for FM24, Jinzhou compete in China's second tier. The club are based in the city of Jinan, home to 9 million residents, making it the obvious choice to be twinned with Coventry. The local side were promoted from the 4th tier in 2021 and from the 3rd in 2022, but remain firmly in the shadow of local rivals and 4 times national champions Shandong Taishan. Whitney Houston tells us the children are our future, and who am I to disagree? Can you take your chosen team to glory relying entirely on players from your youth academy? You'll need a patient board and preferably one that prioritises youth and a good youth setup. To dial back the pain, you could allow yourself to bring in youth players to bolster your academy, but a youth-only adventure is one of the most challenging ways to play Football Manager, but it's a challenge that many FM players crave. Zed brings us to our final save suggestion, and it's Zamora. No, not Bobby, but the Spanish club in the 4th tier who have never played higher than the 3rd since their formation in 1968. Zamora lies near the Portuguese border, with games in Porto being as close as games in Madrid, but to face Porto you'd need to qualify Zamora for European competition, a tall order given the modest level you'd begin at in what could be your greatest FM adventure ever.